Hello, Tashidelek. Good morning. Uh, uh, so last time we have discussed about the five sense faculties, and if you look at these slides, you can see that all the material phenomena, they are classified into the two things. First is the material phenomena that perceived to the sense consciousness, and then another is the material phenomena that is perceived to the mental cognitions. If you look at the five sense objects, it is classified into the five categories: visible forms, sound, smell, taste, and tactility as well. And if you look at the object of mental cognitions, it is uh, consisted of two things: obstructive and non-obstructives. And the example of obstructive is a five sense faculties, and example of non-obstructive is mental object forms. So I have completed all these topics: visible form, sound, smell, taste, tactilities, and five sense faculty as well. So today I am going to speak about the mental object form. So mental object form, it uh, it appears, it perceived to the mental consciousness. It does not appear to the sense, consciousness. So if you look at the mental object forms, it is classified into the five, types. The first is the form emerging from a process of deconstructions, and second is a form of open space, and third is the form of vows derived through a rite. Fourth is the form that is imagined, and fifth is the form arising from meditative expertise. So if I give you an example of each of them, the example of form, emerging from the process of uh, deconstructions is the subtle particle. So if you look at the subtle particles, our body is made up of subtle particles. Our body is made up of tiny particles. Our body is visible to the sense consciousness, but tiny particles, it doesn't perceive to the sense consciousness. So it is the object of mental consciousness. And the example of form of the open space I have given you here is the whitish, vacuity of vacant space to mental consciousness alone. So if you look at the whitish vacuity of vacant space, there are two kinds: a whitish vacuity of vacant space that visible to our eye consciousness. So that kind of whitish vacuity of vacant space is visible form. It's not the object of mental consciousness. If I give you an example of form of the vowels derived through a rite, so I have said here like non-indicative form such as Parti Moksha vows. So Parti Moksha vows, if you look at the Parti Moksha vows, so there are 7 types of Parti Moksha vows. The first two is a lay person's vows, then uh, novice monks vow. There are 2 types of novice monks vow, and then fully ordained monks vow. So if you look at these, precepts and vows, So these are not visible to our sense consciousness. They are the object of our mental consciousness. So if I give an example of the form that imagined, like a skeleton that clearly perceived as pervading the face of the earth, So this is the mental projection, and the purpose of that kind of meditation is to cultivate the sense of renunciations. The purpose of that kind of meditation is to cultivate the sense of renunciations. The example of the form arising from meditative expertise, like water, clearly perceived in meditative concentrations that mentally project water. So there is a similarity between the fourth example and the fifth example, So there is a differences. So I will make a distinction between them. So these, like this example, skeletons that clearly perceive as pervading the face of the earth. So these kind of meditations, uh, uh, the purpose of that meditation is to cultivate the sense of renunciation. But in reality, this skeleton does not pervade the face of the earth. But here, like a water clearly perceived in meditative concentrations, in this case, the power of meditations, power of uh, obtaining the mastery on meditations, then one can turn everything into the fire. One can turn everything into the water. So there is differences between them, So you have to make a distinction between the fourth and the fifth, example of fourth and fifth, And there are different, opinions. There are different views, different perspective on the topic of mental object forms. According to the Vaibhashika school's point of view, they, if you look at the 5 types of the mental object forms, they accept the non-indicative forms. They do not consider rest of others. There are 4 others. The rest of others, they do not consider them as the mental object form. And if you look at the textbook, which is composed by Indian Nalinda master, and his name is Vasubandhu, and in his textbooks, the name of the textbook is Auto Commentaries of the Treasure of the Knowledge. In Tibetan, we call it Zerande. Okay, in these textbooks, he has clearly described that a non-indicative form is not is not accepted as a constituting material form or physical form, And if you look at the Chittamanta schools, mind-only schools, uh, mind-only schools, according to their point of view, they like Partimoksha's vows, like novice monks' vows or fully ordained monks' vow. So these kind of vows received through a rite, these are the mental factor of intentions. They are just a seed in form of imprint, So they do not accept them as an actual physical form, So if you look at the Chantakirti's point of view, Chantakirtis, who is the pioneers of the Prasangikas schools, who is the pioneers of the Prasangika schools in four different Buddhist schools. So according to his point of view, he he has written many textbook. The textbook here I have given the name of the textbooks, the treatise on the five aggregates. You know, in these textbooks, he clearly mentioned that non-indicative forms and rest of the other mental object forms are fully qualified physical forms, material forms. So there are different views, there are different perspective uh, regarding the mental object forms. Some Nalanda scholars they do not accept them as a physical form, and some they consider them as a fully qualified in a physical form. So there is differences between them. I just wanted to share what are their opinions. So I have now completed all these topics, and if you have any question, then please send me an email. And if you are using the WhatsApp, then this is my WhatsApp number. And if you are watching my YouTube, then please subscribe the YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell icon. And that's all. Thank you.